Music is for everybody. I think music is a human right. My name is Jacqueline Rago, and I am from Venezuela, from Caracas. I've been in Bay Area for many, many years, and music is what takes me to places. Um, Basically, I started playing music when I was a child. I knew always that I wanted to be a musician, and my family and my parents supported me. When I was a child in Venezuela, which is a very musical country, and also I come from a family of musicians, I I was surrounded by music, and it was like natural talent. So I remember when I was really, really a baby, I would play this little miniature piano that I had, and people would sit down and listen. And I have no idea how that happened, but I remember that some magic something was happening, and it was good. But nobody taught me, so a lot of the music that I learned was, like that intuition and love for playing, and that is always been there. When I went to primary school, in Venezuela, they gave us instruments to play. First folk music, and then if you want to, you can go to the conservatory. So I went to the conservatory. I studied all the folkloric instruments. So when I was 4 and 5, I started with the cuatro. The cuatro is a string instrument from Venezuela that is really percussive. So after I graduated from music and started teaching, and some people asked me to teach cuatro, I realized that in order to learn the cuatro, you need to go to the percussion first. So being a cuatro player, also without thinking about it, made me a percussionist. And then after that, I came to the States. I continued my musical studies. I graduated here with a bachelor's in arts and BA in music. And it was classical music, mainly the background, but these drums were with me all the time. So while I was going to school here, I was always on the side playing my Venezuelan music. And as I'm growing up, I'm going more towards the drums, discovering the drums and the Afro-Venezuelan percussion from the coast of Venezuela. And I got really serious about it, and I actually started to bring instruments and maestros from Venezuela and study with maestros and maestras in Venezuela at the Folklore Institute of Fundación Bigot in Venezuela. And it was the most beautiful direction to take in my musical life. When I decided that I wanted to get more serious about, studying Venezuelan percussion, I went to Venezuela. I always, went back to visit my family, and then I would go to live concerts or to the School of Music, and I will interact with a lot of percussionists, and I will ask, who is your percussion teacher of Venezuelan folk, Afro Venezuelan music, folk music? And many of them will say Alexander Livinali. Alexander Livinali, and we call him Livy. Okay, so it took me like a couple of years going back and forth, and then I started to look for Livy. And then finally, when I made it, he was teaching at the Fundación Bigot, which is an organization that for many years and still is up, teaches folk music and everything related to the folkloric movement in Venezuela. And when I knocked at the door and he was there, he said, Jackie. And I said, Livy. And then it was like love at first sight. And since then, my hands are kind of like, the way I play has to do with his teaching. He's the most loving, knowledgeable, and humble person, and that makes it so special, and he's respected, well known, and I know that he will be in the books. He's already in the books of the best maestros of Afro-Venezuela music. And he lives in Venezuela, and every time I go, I see him, I talk with him, I meet him. He's like family, and I owe him a lot, because he had all the patience and love to teach me, and I was a good student. I think I always talk with him about how am I doing things, because I'm so far from Venezuela, and it's so good to have a mentor. In terms of being a multi-instrumentalist and deciding to go into the percussion in Venezuela is not so difficult, because most of the music is danceable and it has the beat of a drum. So we classify the music regionally, and almost in every region you find percussion. The West African influences in Venezuelan music is huge, and as I was telling, even for string instruments, the way we sing, the way we play, woodwind instruments, violin, any kind of instrument is very rhythmic, and it comes from this. So when I discover and started kind of diving into every single part of these musical ensembles that come from West African origins, everything started to make more sense, and I said, this is where my heart is. And I really believe that the foundation of a lot of music around the world has to do with this area of West Africa that, you know, historically has brought a lot of rhythms and patterns that, unless we study really close, then we don't understand. But it's so rich and beautiful that that's where my heart is. I've been in Ghana twice, and I heard everything in Ghana. Everything, all the Venezuelan, Caribbean, Cuban, Brazilian, Colombian, I mean, all that area of the Atlantic Ocean and the Caribbean islands is there. You could hear it in just one ensemble playing for an hour. It's kind of a journey through all these areas that we hear this music, and to me that was like the most amazing moment to understand what is in my hands, where it comes from, and what's the next step to do with this music, these percussion instruments from Venezuela, which by the way also look very similar, some of them, in terms of construction. So I'm also a teacher, and I was drumming with girls and boys, third graders, and then something came up like drumming is only for boys, and I think it's fascinating that came up, and then we had a discussion, and at the end of the discussion, the conclusion is that music doesn't have a gender. Music is for everybody. I think music is a human right. I think that preserving culture means preserving history, and even though the cultural work is always evolving with new generations, it is important for these young people to know where this is coming from. I think our past is part of our present, and our future always, when we study music, when we study the roots of a culture, that's never going to change. It's always there, and it's part of what makes a country, a community, the way it is. And I think we're missing out a lot of that with, you know, so many distractions. And I think for me, I have the responsibility as a music teacher to show the kids a world map in my class and tell them these are coming from this area, and this rhythm and this dance, and this is coming from here and there, and for them to know that they're not alone. It's not just music here, it's music around the world. To be a female percussionist is not something very common around the world, especially here in the United States, you find a lot of male percussionists, and then here in the Bay Area, you find a lot of female percussionists. So I'm in a good place for that. However, wherever I go, I never felt blocked or insecure about this. It's been so natural that maybe I'm very lucky to say this and to have historically a very healthy, environment where I can always play drums. And even in Venezuela, when I go there, um, whether you enter in the circle of drummers, that doesn't have to do so much with female male. That has to do with if you play, but of course is male dominated. But even my teacher Livy, he if he's not from the village, so people from the village is the only one who can play. But if you can play, people will welcome you. We're lucky here in the Bay Area to have leaders like Carolyn Brandy, being an organizer for female percussionists. We owe her and her team a lot. There's so many people to mention. I think the movement started because of all these negative, situations and experiences of not accepting women percussionists, just because you're a woman. I mean, that is so ridiculous, but it's true for a lot of female percussionists. At this point, I think opening all the doors possible is not just doing a movement for where we all female percussionists play together, but just inviting men to come into our circle, doing the opposite, and see how they feel. Venezuela 360, Venezuela 360 degrees is this project in which I am showing a lot of different regions, the music from a lot of different regions of Venezuela, and there's a lot of drumming in a lot of regions. So that will be an opportunity for me to showcase, and not only as a performer, but also as a teacher. We'll have some workshops, and it's coming up next year in May in collaboration with the Yerba Buena Gardens Festival. If I can be a model to many people who have that fight of, well, art and music and arts in general are a hard career. Yes, they are like any other. You just have to be passionate and always believe in what your heart and your mind is telling you. And if that is in you as a young person, just pursue it. Otherwise, it's gonna be hard to do something that you're forced to do and it's not your passion. So in that aspect, music is being a love, a passion, a career, a responsibility, and something that I take very seriously in many aspects. Like, I think music is definitely going to save so many lives.